spectrum products that aren't going to do anything that are out there. That really blew my mind when I entered the space, that everything around me was a broad spectrum. All I would do is sit on panels and fight, saying, no, THC will not kill your dog. It's not dangerous. It's not toxic. Leave the plant alone.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome back to the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant with so many names and how it's helping so many people and pets in so many extraordinary ways. So today it's my honor. We have bringing on another amazing guest. It's Angela Ardolino, certified pet holistic health coach, cannabis and fungi expert, animal lover who's been caring for pets for over 20 years. Owns and operates 2 locations, Beautify the Beast Natural Pet Salon and Shop, as well as Fire Flake Farm Animal Rescue. Angela's mission is to educate and empower pet parents to heal and support their pets using the whole plant and mushroom medicine. Angela, welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing great. I'm glad we got a chance to get connected. I'm actually outside in Ventura, California, and we have some dogs in the background that are excited that you're here too. So tell us a little bit about your journey, and we'll get into all good things, cannabis and fungi and dogs.
I'm a huge lover of animals and of cannabis, so that is my gig. They are my favorite. I discovered cannabis medicine in 15, when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I didn't want to take the scary-ass Humira drug that's already been linked to lymphoma, and I was living a pretty natural lifestyle as it was, so I went out to find the natural medicine, and I tried a cannabis tincture and could not believe how it got rid of all of my pain and my mood and, everything everybody knows about how wonderful this plant is. And I didn't understand why it was being kept from us, so I wanted to find out more. At the time, I actually published a regional magazine, on natural living, and I was in Tampa in Florida, wasn't medically legal here yet, and I got involved with a group called Canna Moms, which were these incredible moms that were treating their kids' seizures, cancer, autoimmune diseases with cannabis, and couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I literally I sold my magazine, threw myself into the cannabis industry, not knowing where I would end up, and went to conference after conference and it became my mission. I feel it's inhumane to keep this medicine from humans or from animals. I became a huge advocate, fought really hard in Florida to make it medically legal. I've traveled all over the country and world learning to source seeds, cultivate it, learn how to grow a medicine, educate people. And in 2016, I was invited to the inaugural class at the University of Vermont School of Medicine for the study of cannabis for its therapeutic uses in biology. That's where I learned animals have the endocannabinoid system just like we do, and decided that's where I would concentrate. But I take cannabis medicine every single day, both hemp and medical marijuana. So I'm a huge advocate. I go, this is what a pothead looks like, because I think that the stigma needs to be gone already. I still battle it every day. What I get to hear every day is that THC is toxic and will kill your dog, and I have to constantly go, no, not true. And I have research studies, and I have over 6 years using the medicine on my rescue farm. I've stopped seizures, I've put cancer into remission 4 times, I've extended life, quality of life, so I don't want to hear it anymore. I know what it can do. I know what it did for me and what we've done now for thousands and thousands of pet parents who now are able to get rid of their dog's melanoma, by putting a topical and giving an internal. Or, tumors. Nothing better than watching a tumor die on a dog, and all you're giving them is a plant. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. But that's literally what I do is I travel, and I'm on tour right now with one of our country's best loved holistic veterinarians, and all I do is talk about cannabis and the endocannabinoid system and mushrooms. What's so cool about fungi is that they interact with the endocannabinoid system also. So we got to understand that cannabis, fungi, these other herbs that we love, like ashwagandha and astragalus root, all of those are belong in a category of, they're not just plants, called adaptogens. And cannabis is the queen of the adaptogens. And anytime, there's already research shows that you put 3 or 4 adaptogens together, let's say 3 or 4 adaptogens that are known to have anti-cancer or anti-tumor activity, they become very powerful and synergistic, and they can do some incredible things when you take them.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. And, we have some stores out here on the West Coast, and it's, we got started because we found, this miracle plant. Dr. William Courtney was researching cancer, and he was using fresh, raw cannabis juice to treat tumors and cancer. And, the fact that you and I know that, and our listeners now know that, many who've listened before have had, talked with Dr. William Courtney or listened, but it should be on billboards and bus stops and commercials, and the tips on everyone's tongue should just know. I mean, my mission is to reach 1 billion people by 2025. And all I really want is for people to think of, cannabis, and let's just say pain, because that's the most common reason people use it, and equate it to aloe vera and sunburn. And then I'll know, okay, we've done it. We've made it that people don't think of those, Cheech and Chong type things anymore. They think about, raw hemp or hemp and cannabis, which is all one and the same, helping people with so many different things. So the thing I was going to say was, it's funny that in these stores on the West Coast, I'll see these people come in, and when it's for their pet, these pet parents, which I love that you say, they won't even ask the price of the tinctures or the topicals. They'll just grab the wallet and throw it at you, the credit card. And it's wonderful that people care so much about their furry friend family. But sometimes I find it interesting that they won't do that for their own selves. Like, I've seen them come in with the same stories, with epilepsy and cancer and pain and just, transition, end of life, and these incredible stories and heartfelt cards and things like that. But then they won't, even if they've seen it with their own eyes, they still have reservation to use it for themselves. So maybe you could speak a little bit more to the experiences you've seen with the pets, because we've talked about pet and cannabis before, but I know you're an expert, and I'd love to hear more about what you've seen with pets. And again, the fungi I find really interesting, so that's a topic that's really new to me and our audience.
Yeah, you're gonna if you love cannabis, you're gonna love fungi, because they're just as freaking cool. What's really cool about fungi is they're not a plant, and they're closer to humans than they are to plants. So that's really creepy if you think about that. But what I find is what's incredible is what I had to hear all the time is THC is toxic to dogs. Cannabis doesn't really work. And I've been able to do these incredible things with cancer. And when I had such success with cancer, like really, okay, I'm going to feed a ketogenic diet that doesn't feed the cancer, and I'm going to treat with just cannabis and mushrooms. And that's literally what I did. And I needed to understand what I did. So I don't know if you know this, but there are 12 pathways to cancer. So when you see new targeted cancer drug, they're usually targeting just one of those pathways. And it's usually doing one action in that pathway. Cannabis has already been proven to interact with 8 of those pathways, and in some cases, different ways. So sometimes in one pathway, they'll down-regulate or block something to prevent that cancer from metastasizing or spreading, or turning into another tumor type of thing. So people don't understand that that's why these chemotherapy drugs aren't always the best choice. And you go ahead and add turmeric, green tea, reishi, cordyceps, turkey tail, lion's mane, all these other adaptogens, you're now interacting with all 12 pathways of cancer. You're literally, the plants themselves are doing actions, and it supports your immune system to help keep that cancer from spreading. So this is what I learned. This is what I applied and watched it happen over and over again. I had a Doberman with osteosarcoma, which is a cancer that 1 in 5 large breed dogs get now. It is, it's in their breed. You can't get it out of them. So I have a whole team of holistic vets on my board of advisors. We're now advising to start giving large breed dogs a full spectrum hemp extract at 8 weeks old to help prevent this awful cancer from coming in the first place. It takes your dog away in 4 to 6 months. Not mine. Mine lived 2 years. And when I finally she had it in her wrist, when I did finally have to amputate the leg, the veterinarian did 8 diagnostic tests to show what the cancer was doing. It had not ever moved from the wrist. And that's usually what cancer does. It spreads to the lungs and you're gone in 4 to 6 months. Your pet's gone in 4 to 6 months. It hadn't moved from her wrist in 2 years. That's what cannabis does. That's what these adaptogens do. And not only does it do that, but they feel great. They have energy. They're not in pain. Nina held her wrist up and was chasing bunnies like a crazy dog. And Nina, I gave her a full spectrum hemp extract every single day that has turmeric and frankincense with it, because those are 2 other adaptogens. And I gave her 10 milligrams of RSO on her gums every single night. That's how I kept her cancer from spreading. That's how I kept her pain-free. And what was really cool is that the first week, the only side effect was urinary incontinence. I knew CBD dampens the side effects of THC, so I'd give her CBD and that stopped. So literally, I had no side effects. She just slept it off, during the night. And this is what I'm doing on a regular basis, and watching, pets not only extend their life, but quality of life. So I love being able to do this, because what's cool about dogs is that we have research that already shows they have more receptors than we do. So if I can accomplish these types of things with hemp on dogs, then we know we can do the same thing with humans.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing. Because, dogs, they have such a great, intuitiveness with their body. Like, they know when to put pressure or not to put pressure. And so you can see so quickly the
also
effects.
don't know they have cancer.
Well, yeah. And even if it's just ordinary pain and inflammation, we hear the stories too, where the neighbor will be like, "Did you get a new dog?" And then the dog will just come back to life because of how powerful this raw hemp or this hemp extract is. And
that's literally what we say. People go, "How do I know it's working?" I go, "Well, what we hear is he's puppy-like again. He's running around and doing the things he enjoys." That's how you know that's what a dog not in pain looks like.
Absolutely. So tell me this, because I'm out here in California, and we've doing this going on 10 years, and I remember when there was breakthroughs in 2018 when they passed the Farm Bill that made it very clear that hemp was legal for all in our country. Which it should have always been, because George Washington grew hemp and Thomas Jefferson. But anyways, then, we had a lot of resistance. And one of the biggest resistance is in the veterinarian world. And finally, a veterinarian walked into one of our stores out here in Ventura, California. And I said, he had his outfit on and everything. I was like, "Hey, man," he was there to get CBD-A for his dog. And I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "Good." I go, "Hey, can you answer me this question?" I was like, "You guys," and I have some friends that are vets too. And I said, "Hey, why are you guys so anti-CBD? Why are you so anti-cannabis when it comes to treating animals?" And he said, "Let me tell you why." And out here in California, they were given a memo that was issued out to all California, veterinarians, that they could lose their license if they recommended CBD, a legal plant like apples and oranges, to their patients or to their animals. So that's what's happened. That's what we're starting to break through, but there seems to be such a
You want to know
deadlock.
why?
Yeah, and I do want to know why. I mean, obviously, there's
Just as bad as the human side. All of that is happening because of greed. So, a couple things happened in California. So we went on tour in 2019, and we went to California because we were like, we need to know what the hell's going on. So yeah, that's what happens. Veterinarians are doctors, so it's ridiculous for them to say doctors medically can now talk, recommend, prescribe, and then take out veterinarians on purpose. So what's happening in California is that the vet industry is trying, or the veterinarians, certain ones, are trying to control it so that it has to be a prescription written by a veterinarian. The one or two that are trying to control the entire veterinarian industry in California also told veterinarians they would. Okay, so first of all, they got rid of, hemp is fine, but not marijuana. Those vets continued to have all of them scared and say, if you want to recommend it, send them to this website and they'll help them. And they were sending it to their website. So literally, we have been screaming from the top, that these vets you're perfectly safe now with a full spectrum hemp extract in California. And I don't even know what's going on with, THC. I think that if I remember, if it's THC, it can be sold in a dispensary. I know what the hell is his name? There's a vet out there who was a good one, who wasn't trying to control the industry, who's got products that are in dispensaries out there. But yeah, it's all greed. It's ridiculous. And have you heard what's going on in Washington State?
No, I mean, I'm on the California Hemp Council out here.
So now it's bad enough that we have to battle Big Pharma. Now the marijuana industry is trying to control hemp.
We deal with that all the time out here in California. Because, again, what happens is, the powers that be, that, Big Pharma, obviously, that is very intertwined with veterinarian medicine. When,
Same companies that own our pharmaceuticals own theirs.
Yes. And so what we've seen is that when the big pharmaceutical companies look, it's like, if we can get California, we can get the rest of the country. If we can nail the biggest state, then the rest of the nation will fall in line. And so even out here with CBD, back in, I think, 2019, I want to say, they raided a lot of the health food stores and took CBD off the shelves, trying to use the reasoning that GW Pharma owned the patent to CBD isolate, really, which is what they made Epidiolex. And so, again, they tried that. Fortunately, out here, like I said, I'm on the California Hemp Council with Patrick Goggin and a bunch of great lobbyists and attorneys that we fought tooth and nail, and we wrote the law the way it needed to be written. And there's still battles that need to be done up there in Sacramento. But, it's crazy that you and I are having this conversation, that we both have seen many times over what this miracle plant can do for humans and for animals. And the general population doesn't know. The reason why we had to reschedule this podcast was I was on a call with a doctor who was hearing bad information about cannabis and helping children with epilepsy. And he's a smart, educated, holistic healer, and he still is getting bad information from his cohorts. And so he called me, the expert, to tell him the truth. And so, and we'll just continue to do this. And I know it's an uphill fight, and I've been fighting it for a long time, and so have you. But at the end of the day, when you've seen what this plant can do for your loved ones, you just get drawn to continue to educate until we get to a place where people truly understand what this plant can do. And it's not just the plant, like you said. There's other, adaptogens. Obviously, what you eat, organic, pesticides.
You know what? This is what I love, Justin, is that, do you know what they're calling these adaptogens and these other plants that have medicinal properties now? They're calling they're calling them cannamometics. They're calling them, so everything's changing. So it's like, it's weird because everything on our end is moving very nicely. Research is coming out. They're now, everybody talks about the gut microbiome now. Everybody knows what it is. Well, guess what? It's part of the endocannabinoid system. They've literally changed the name to the endocannabinoid which they're not going to be able to get away from it. All this amazing information is going to continue to come out.
Yep.
And they can't. It's like this battle of misinformation and the truth, and people need to find out. And I'm hoping that we're doing a good job educating, so if they do ever try to control the entire industry, that people are going to be like, yeah, nope, not happening.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of concern. We had Patrick Goggin on, who's the lead attorney for California Hemp Council a few weeks back, and we talked about it. Like, Joe Biden's on record that he would want, he would not want to deschedule. He would want to reschedule from a Schedule 1, which is saying, where cannabis is currently over 0.3% THC. He would want to reschedule it to a Schedule 2, which would give pharmaceutical control, which is terrifying to me. Granted, we do have a lot of states that have written laws that there probably would be some good pushback, but ultimately, if it's not complete, it's either the way that I look at it is leave it the way it is and let the states sort it out, or deschedule it and take it off the schedule. Because once again, when greed gets involved, like you talked about before, greed and people's well-being or dogs' well-being do not mix.
Now you got to remember, dogs. It's like the most beautiful place for Big Pharma to come, because dogs or pets are considered property. So if your pharmaceutical killed my dog and I sued you and the judge goes, you win, how much were your vet bills? That's literally what happens. So they have nothing to lose and I pay attention to, in these holistic vets that I have that have been practicing for 30 years, have watched human pharmaceuticals fall out of favor on the human side and now find a place in the animal side. They still don't work, but they're still using them and selling them. And Pfizer, every big pharma has an arm in the animal thing, and they're making billions and billions of dollars off of our pets. And the FDA doesn't regulate our things, much less our pet products, but they do something extra special where, let's say I am a Pfizer, their Zoetis is their animal arm. If I want to release a product, FDA doesn't have time to approve it. They just say not approved, but legal to market. So they don't even care anymore. It's just a free-for-all. So every pet parent needs to look. If you love your dogs like family, it's the same thing that goes for us. Look at everything that you're giving them, put in them. Make sure you've got that certificate of analysis, because most products. When I first started in the industry and I knew about pet products, I would find go to a convention or a conference and find a human product where they would just slap a paw print on it, and they would have flavoring in it because they thought the dog needed to have it taste like bacon or cheese, or worse, xylitol, the sweetener that will kill a dog. So a lot of people just, going, oh my gosh, it works for them too. Let me make a pet product, and then just relabel a human product. And the perpetuation of the fear of THC in dogs, that it's toxic to dogs, so that this overwhelming of shitty broad spectrum products that aren't going to do anything that are out there. That really blew my mind when I entered the space, that everything around me was a broad spectrum. All I would do is sit on panels and fight, saying, no, THC will not kill your dog. It's not dangerous. It's not toxic. Leave the plant alone.
I'd love to get you some of our products to try too, just for fun. Is that we'd go high on the CBDA. And so it's all whole plant, organic, cold pressed. That's what we've followed the rule or the guides with Dr. William Courtney and raw cannabis juicing, and it's leave the plant alone, and I just I hear you. Like, you look at like those CBD isolates and things like that. I mean, there's some research out there that it's actually almost a negative. I mean, I hate to say anything negative about CBD, but when it is in that single compound form, that Epidiolex type form, the body just really doesn't know how to receive it. It can clog up the receptors. It's just not the way that we've been around for millennia. And this plant together, we've developed this relationship that we have, for at least 30,000 years that we can trace. That it just interacts with our endocannabinoid system, which helps balance the other 9 systems, and And, and that's what I love about, like I said, I love learning. Teach us a little bit more before we have to go, just because, again, I'm not an expert on fungi and dogs. And what have you seen it most common help with and some success stories?
Kind of, my favorite is cancer, because there's so much research. There's so much research that I wrote a whole magazine. It's going to be a book one day, and started keeping track. So I have a chart of all the mushrooms, and I'm only keeping track of 12. So cancer, unbelievable. That's where I've seen them do the most work. Let's see, chaga binds to CB2 receptor. PSP, which is the cancer-fighting polysaccharide in turkey tail, binds to the CB2 receptor. So those are both really cool. They all interact with the endocannabinoid system because they are adaptogens and just help it do its job. The other thing that is really amazing is for dementia, the mind, Alzheimer's. Both lion's mane, cordyceps, astragalus root, bacopa monnieri. Astragalus root, bacopa monnieri are herbs, not mushrooms. But lion's mane literally regrows your telomeres, regenerates neurons, protects the brain. They now have research that has come out that they say if you stop taking it for 2 weeks, your brain actually goes back to the way it was. So these fungi are here for us and our animals, and are really an unbelievable sources of nutrients. Chaga has more antioxidants than anything on earth. And to me, between cannabis and mushrooms, there isn't anything that we can't help or treat that we come across, or animals. So that's literally my mission, is how I've been able to stop seizures, how I've watched dogs go into dementia, which I didn't know how Alzheimer's killed you. And dogs, it's called cognitive, decline, OCD, no, CCD, canine cognitive decline. And I would watch, I'd put dogs' cancer in remission on these 16, 17-year-old geriatric dogs, bring them back to homeostasis, and then watch them lose their ability to eat and drink, which happens to humans. So get up, go to the water bowl, not know how to drink, not know how to eat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got it. That's my missing link. I'm getting them to 18 and then losing them to, this terrible disease. Lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi with those herbs, game changer. So just like hemp, it's not regulated. It's actually worse. Fungi is not regulated. So just like we want to extract it correctly from the hemp plant, from the mushrooms, most people are inoculating a grain or an oat, putting it in a plastic bag, putting them in a damp basement and growing them. The moment the primordia sticks its little head up, they take that whole substrate, throw it and grind it up and put it in a powder. That's not medicine. Just like the plant, you need to extract it from the fruiting body of the mushroom. So it's also important for those mushrooms to be growing on what they're supposed to be growing on. So I keep bringing up chaga. Chaga only has the compound that is anti-cancer and that binds to the CB2 receptor if it's growing on a birch tree. So it's not gonna happen anywhere else. So where they're grown, how they're extracted, coming from the fruiting body, not from the mycelium substrate, really important. And guess what? Most of the products, just like hemp products, are shit that are out on the market. So it's really hard. You just want to make sure it's from fruiting body. They don't have a third-party lab right now doing any type of testing because there's no money in it, so they don't care. You remember how it was in the cannabis industry, how hard you could make a great product, but then you were held up by trying to find a lab. Well, that's where they're at, but nobody cares or is regulating it. So do your homework. It's hard, just like it is with hemp, but just get a fruiting body extract.
And, why do you think it is? I mean, number one, the reason why, for hemp isn't federally regulated, even though it's federally legal, is because FDA kicked the can down. They don't want to regulate it because Big Pharma doesn't see the pathway to making money.
Right.
Exactly.
I love
So,
when you say the same thing.
so that's where we are with that. But at the end of the day, it's not the fault of the of the companies. We actually get our stuff certified. USDA. You can actually register with the FDA. They just haven't given us a clear pathway for them to stamp it.
Right.
Not that there's. I bet you the belief and the faith in the FDA is as low as it's ever been, and it should be with the food additives and things that they allow us to eat in only our country, nowhere else in the world, and we're only one of 2 countries that will allow you to advertise drugs on television, us in New Zealand. And so, but my question for you is, before we wrap, last question is, why do you think there is? It's kind of a loaded question. I'm sure you know, and I know. But why do you think it is that we're seeing so much more cancer these days in dogs, specifically, but also in humans, but just in dogs? Why do you think we're seeing so much more of this cancer?
So we've got really bad breeding and genetics mixed with, I remember this statistic from, I want to say 20 years ago, that there were 50,000 new chemicals being introduced into our world, which I can't even imagine. That was a statistic from 20 years ago, what it is now. So everything that we're feeding, kibble is not real food. It's like feeding your dog Fruit Loops every day with no milk. It has got preservatives on it, food coloring, all of the bad stuff that causes cancer in it. So we're not feeding their immune system or their gut microbiome. Dogs are pets. All pets need real food just like we do. Real, fresh food. Everything that we put on them and in them, flea and tick, all of those are cancer-causing chemicals. The grooming. When I bought my groom shop, I had never owned a groom shop, so I started in the bathing room bathing dogs. I'd come home, my skin was coming off of my arm from the chemicals that was in the shampoo that we bathe them with. Carpet cleaners, laundry detergent, pesticides, herbicides, everything. Our dogs' noses are always down to the ground, so that is why we see 1 in 9 dogs now, if it's not, it keeps changing, is going to get some sort of cancer. And then the osteosarcoma, it was 1 in 5 large breed dogs. It is out of control, and that is why. We're over-vaccinating our dogs. We're only supposed to vaccinate our dogs their first year of life like we do. If you ever have a dog that you're concerned about, you get something called a titers test. That's what the vets do. Vets have to have a rabies vaccination, right? So because they work with all kinds of dogs. Do you think they give the veterinarians the rabies vaccination every single year? No. They give them a titers test to see if they still have those antibodies so that they don't, over-vaccinate the veterinarians. The same thing can be done for our dogs. So it's they're just bombarded from chemicals, cancer-causing chemicals from every side, and not getting a proper diet to help them even fight it off. So feeding them real food, giving them a full spectrum hemp extract, these medicinal mushrooms when they're great for protecting and for, providing nutrients. So you can actually chop up mushrooms and eat them. And I don't know if you know this, I just went through this really intensive certification program in fungi. But he's like, we need to be feeding our dogs and ourselves mushrooms 3 times a week. Chop them up, put them in the oven for 20 minutes on 250, 225, because they feed our microbiome, our large intestine, for 13 days straight. They're prebiotic and feed your gut. And you can battle anything if you got a healthy gut. So just having that information, and we don't even know about eating them. Just make sure they're organic, because like hemp, they are bioaccumulators and suck everything out of the air and earth. But also remember them as an incredible medicine and using them as a tonic, which is extracting it. That outer layer won't let you get to all the nutrients, all the medicine when you eat them. So you still need to do an extract just like you would do with cannabis.
Absolutely. Love it. Well, I feel like I've learned so much today, and I'm sure our audience has as well. If they want to learn more, this is really great information. How can they find you? Where should they go?
You bet. It's my name, AngelaArdolino.com, and my products are at cbd-dog-health.com.
Well, that is wonderful. I feel like I learned a lot, especially about fungi.
Good.
And I'm just so glad to meet another holistic healer out there on the mission to educate, to really make a difference. And I'm so glad we got a chance to meet, and I look forward to our paths crossing soon. Any final comments or final message you want to leave with the audience?
I just love talking to a fellow cannabis lover who understands how it works. It's so nice to skip all that part and just talk about the good stuff.
Yeah, well, and we're the conversation a couple of years ago when we started the podcast was what is CBD, and now the conversation has gotten much more developed. Is like what's the difference? Like you said, you need to be educated when you're making decisions for yourself or for your animal to make sure you're getting the highest quality, the closest resemblance of the plant. So again, thanks so much for joining us. At the end of every Miracle Plant podcast, we say heal the world, because that is the mission. Pay it forward, reach 1 billion people by 2025, about the power of this miracle plant, especially in the raw form. So join with me if you're at home or at the gym or in the car, and we're going to say heal the world and send out that healing energy to those people and animals out there that need to hear this information, learn this information, and apply this information. So on the count of 3, let's say heal the world. 1, 2, 3.
Heal the
world! Well, thanks for swinging by the Miracle Plant Podcast, everybody. Be healthy, be happy, be a blessing, and happy healing.
Thanks for listening to today's show. To check out more great cannabis podcasts, go to PodConx.com. Here's a preview of one of our other shows.
99.9% of our DNA is identical. It's a 0.1% that truly makes us different and unique. And that's what the show is about. Find out that 0.1% about your favorite guests. Find out what music they like, their first cannabis experience, and even what their room looked like growing up. But more importantly, or as important, their journey. Learn what makes them unique on Everything is Personal.